this session, especially since it goes into competency 8. I've already recorded competency 7, so all I have to do is upload it. But this will also encompass competency 8 as well. Okay. All right. So remember, this is grammar, and so competency 6 as well as competency 7. So we have to blend at this point. So Franco, an ELL student, writes the following about a holiday in his native.
We don't see it.
You don't see it? Okay, thank you for letting me know before I got all the way down. All right, let me know if you can see it. You got it? Okay.
Yes.
Franco, an ELL student, writes the following about a holiday in his native country. On this day, our family visits the graves of my grandparents and brings them gifts, like flowers and candy. Then we go home to eat, sing, and tell our favorite stories. It is a special day. What is the problem with Franco's text? A, there's a sentence fragment. B, there's a pronoun agreement error. C, there's a run-on sentence. D, there is a tense error. So with question 1, I will go ahead and like scaffold, and then with question like 2 and 3, because this is a blend of competency 6 and 7, you'll see me kind of wait a little bit so that you can tell me your answer, because this is a review of competency 6. I know, Edwina, like this competency 7 is relatively new, but I do want to make sure that y'all give me the answer. So, but for this one, I'm going to walk us through it. So on this day, our family visits the graves of my grandparents and brings them gifts, like flowers and candy. Then we go home to eat, sing, and tell our favorite stories. So it doesn't seem like there's a pronoun agreement error. He's using our, let's see, he's using them. So everything is connecting correctly. There's a run-on sentence. On this day, our family visits the graves of my grandparents and brings them gifts, like flowers and candy. Then we go home to eat, sing, and tell our favorite stories. So there's no run-on sentence here. There's a tense error. On this day, our family visits the graves of my grandparents and brings them gifts. So they're in the right tense, right? Then we go home to eat, sing, and tell our favorite stories. So they're in the present. So what this is going to be is like flowers and candy. Is that a complete sentence? No, right? So it's going to be a fragment. Like flowers and candy is a sentence fragment, and it doesn't contain all the necessary elements of a complete sentence. And it should be corrected. All right. So after reading a short story to her students, a middle school English arts teacher asked the following questions. What do the objects in the story represent? What is the tone of the story? Which images or statements contribute to the tone? To which literary elements do these questions refer? When you have your answer, just so we don't throw off anybody else's thinking, you can just put your answer in the chat box.
Okay. Is it only 3 letters, A, B, and C?
No.
Okay, there. I couldn't see it.
Okay. Got it.
Oh no. I think I saw something similar to this in the test last time I took it, Elisa.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, because I
Right.
saw it too when I took it.
And I have trouble with this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's good though.
It's definitely not B.
Right, because
Not
hyperbole
B.
is
We're
exaggeration. Characterization
not
is
talking about,
basically right.
right, and we're not talking about the theme either.
So we've done process of elimination, so you can put your answer in the chat. Is it in, Edwina? You got it? Perfect. Wonderful. So it's going to be symbolism, right?
Got it
So
wrong.
the reason why, that's okay. So the reason why it is symbolism is it's saying, what do the objects in the story represent, right? So uh, so this in the story, if you had an object that was a phone, what would that phone represent to you? That is symbolism. When we talk about theme, remember that theme is the lesson learned. So different things that you might have is slow and steady wins the race. Be nice to other people. Don't judge a book by its cover. It's the overarching message of that story. All right, so let's see. So
Okay.
these questions prompt students to examine symbolism, which is the use of words and symbols to represent ideas or things within a literary work.
Okay.
All right. So we got a lot to unpack here. We're gonna go and read the question, and then I'm gonna pull it all the way up so you can see A through D. So titles often prove misleading themes, and it is so often that the outside of any book gives the faintest hint of its quality unless it tells you, or nearly tells you, the publisher's name. For of course, there are publishers who very rarely issue bad or even weak books. Memories, a life's epilogue. This is very unpromising. A title page that, if it had not been for the names Longman and Green and Co. at the foot of it, we might well have begun to turn over the leaves with some prejudice against the anonymous author. But a very casual glance informs the reader in this case that he has to deal with a highly intelligent man of the old school, with plenty of caustic humor in him. There is something exceedingly quaint about ludicrous in the author's way of employing the Spencerian stanza, as it is not always clear that he is conscious of the humor there is in it. The passage categorizes the book as so we go through a collection of reflective poems, B, a memoir that is both critical and sarcastic of the present compared with his past, C, a narrative satire meant to comment on a shifting culture. So satire is like being sarcastic, right? D, a fictional depiction of its author's experience. So because there's a lot going on here, we might need to reread it, right? Or kind of zone in on what is important. So I'm gonna get my highlighter. Let's see. We might need to break this down. There was a lot going on here. So titles often prove to be misleading. Let's see. Memories of a life's epilogue. I might need another color. This is very uncompromising, a title page that if it had not been for the names Longman, Green, and Co. at the foot of it, we might well have begun to turn over the leaves with some prejudice against the anonymous author. But a very casual glance informs the reader in this case that he has to deal with a highly intelligent man of the old school with plenty of humor in him. There is something exceedingly quaint, almost ludicrous, in the author's way of employing the Spencerian stanza. So stanza. So we're talking about genres. When do we typically see stanzas?
Poems.
Yep, think about it. So we normally see it in poems, okay? And it is not always clear that he is conscious of the human there is in it. So the passage categorizes the book as we have a collection of reflective poems, a memoir, a narrative, or fictional depiction. What are we going to go with? Now, we found a pretty big hint earlier.
Yep. I'm gonna go with A.
Okay. So that would be correct, right? So
Right.
in all of that muck, right? Because that was a lot going on, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know every word, but I know to look for keywords, right?
Right.
Because you can't possibly know everything. I don't know what Spencerian stanza is, but I know what
Right.
stanza is, and I know normally it's like, a stanza is
Right.
normally found in poetry. So
Okay.
that was what was very helpful. So the title, Memories, a Life's Epilogue, suggests that the book's subject, memories, will establish a reflective tone. And so the stanza refers to the style of poetry or at least some of the poetry in the collection, right? So that stanza is what it was. And I hadn't even seen, and it's so crazy, I hadn't even seen the rationale, but luckily, because sometimes my rationale and their rationale don't add up, but we come to the same answer. All right. So with this one, I would just recommend you kind of read the sentence above and then the sentence below so that you don't have to read all of it. So, which rhetorical device is being used in underline phase one? See, the spring comes in. So, let's see. I would read where it says, well, there I might live, I said, and there I did live for an hour, a summer, and a winter life. Saw how I could let the years run off, buffet the winter through, and see the spring come in. The future inhabitants of this region, wherever they may place their houses. Okay, so now it's asking you, which rhetorical device is being used in underlying phrase one? See the spring come in. Is it A, personification, B, simile, C, alliteration, or D, metaphor? Remember to put your answer in the chat.
Can you raise up your the sentence, the paragraph again? Okay, right in there. Okay.
All right. So see this. So well, we went with see the spring come in. So see the spring come in. So I'm gonna go with one of the answer choices and see. All right. So it was personification. I
Personification.
see the spring come in.
Come in person.
Yes.
Dang.
That's okay. Kind of like a person coming in. You're giving non-human things, human-like traits, right? So that's that. So the phrase spring come in is showing the season, spring personified. Personification is when an object or idea takes on human characteristics. In this case, spring is coming in like a human would.
Human would.
That's okay. We're working on it. It's good. We're working on it. All right. So we have an assessment. This will be our, I think we'll have this question and one more before we move on to competency 8. So as a formative assessment following the first half of the novel, Mrs. Adams asked the class to complete a short journal entry. The following paragraph is an entry written by an 8th grade student. Scout always seems to be finding herself stuck in arguments that seem unnecessary, like when she gets in trouble for already knowing how to read it. It should be a good thing that she already knows how to read. When I read this part, it reminded me of a time this year when I stopped to help a kid in the hall who dropped his stuff on the floor. I ended up being tardy to my class, and my mom was really mad. Just like Scout, I was in trouble when she should have been proud of me. This student's response can best be described as, so let's look at the answer choices. An analysis of the main conflict. B, demonstrating how small occurrences support the theme. C, a personal connection to the novel. Or D, a character analysis of Scout. So what I want you to do is take some time to reread this, right? And then we're going to go back to the answer choices. So I'm going to give you about a minute to go back and reread it.
Do we type our answer in the chat?
Yes. You'll type your answer in the chat. Y'all are killing it, right? She made that text to self connection, right? The student describes how their own experience is similar to an experience had by the main character in the novel. So now we're moving on to competency 7, right? That is definitely a question that would be in competency 7 because we're talking about a written composition at this point. Ongoing assessment is extremely important in writing and the writing process. So when they say ongoing assessment, our students are doing brainstorm and the teacher is assessing them and offering feedback, right? Because writing is a never-ending journey. Eventually, you do get to the publication, but as I tell my students, it is not the first stop shop. It is an ongoing process. And it's extremely important in the writing process. Which of the following is the least important reason for ongoing assessment? A, analyzing the student's understanding of one or more areas of the writing process. B, assessing students' abilities to use competencies such as apostrophes, capitalization, and punctuation. C, analyzing how well students can write for different purposes and audiences. D, ensuring that there are many scores, so no one low grade will too significantly impact their average. So which one is the least important reason for writing to be an ongoing assessment? So, okay, we have an answer. We're going to go ahead and wait, giving you that thinking time.
So it's the least important reason for an assessment, right?
Least important. Because on the test, it's not always which one is the correct answer, and then they give you four answers, four answer choices. You got to pick one. Sometimes you got to pick multiple answers. Sometimes you got to find the least important, right? So giving you those different variations.
I was between, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong because I really don't know B and D, but I don't.
Yeah, so as far as least important, it's going to be D, ensuring that there are many scores, so no one low grade will too significantly impact their average. That's the least important, right? The ongoing assessment is definitely so you can analyze the student's understanding of one or more areas of the writing process. Of course, when you're writing, because there are more than one areas of writing, you got to make sure that you're able to see if students are understanding the pre-writing stage, if they're understanding the revising stage, the editing stage. Also, in writing, you got to assess their abilities to use apostrophes and capitalization, because that's a part of the editing stage. Analyzing how well students can write for different purposes and audiences. We know that's dealing with their voice, right? So ensuring that there are many scores so no one low grade will significantly impact their average. There is a need for that, just not in the writing process.
All right.
Alrighty. All right, so this is our last question for this before we move on to competency 8. So read the sentence below and answer the question. Sarah has never been to Asia, but she's been to Africa. The sentence is an example of which of the following? Simple sentence, compound complex sentence, compound sentence, or complex sentence. You can go ahead and put your answer in the chat. Give us about 1 more minute to think about it. All right. So yes, it would be a compound sentence, right? Because we know with a compound sentence, it has at least two independent clauses, and an independent clause can stand alone as a sentence, right? And it is combined with a conjunction. So using but, and, so, yet. All right, nice work. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to competency 8. Just wanted to make sure that we did that review. All right. So, Edwina, can you go ahead and read competency 8 for us?
Yes. The teacher understands skills for interpreting, analyzing, evaluating, and producing visual images and messages in various media, and provides students with opportunities to develop skills in this area. Various media is TV, magazines, TV shows, news broadcasts.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So a lot of this competency is being able to understand how various media has meaning, right, within your classrooms. And providing students with opportunities to develop skills in this area. That's competency 8 at the end of the day. showing students the importance of how various media really plays a part in the classroom and helping them to understand the content. So you might have noticed I've already pulled out what was important to me. It's already highlighted in red. So we're going to go through. Students in a seventh grade English class are working in groups on a project in which they must create a computer-based slide presentation and present it to the class. Before the students begin creating their presentations, the teacher shows them examples of slides that have too much text and discusses ways to improve the slides. You ever have a student, they get up there to present, and Lord have mercy, it's just like all the text in the world. Where are the pictures? Where are the videos, right? Seen it? Hot Mess Express. So the activity will best help students understand how to, right? So the teacher gave the seventh grade English class a project, right, in which they need to create computer-based slide presentation and present it. She notices that the slides have too much text, and then she discusses ways to improve the slides. This activity will best help students understand understanding of how to incorporate appropriate graphics to support the text. B, appropriately match what is said in the presentation to the slide. C, ensure that the presentation is the appropriate length. D, design the presentation slides appropriately. So you might have noticed I've highlighted in each answer choice the keywords that stand out. So we have incorporate appropriate graphics. I'm like, did this question mention anything about graphics? Absolutely not, right? This is about a presentation. The teacher noticing is too much text, and she's discussing ways to improve it, right? So that is a specific skill. B, match what is said in the presentation to the slides. No, that's the problem. That there's more text than pictures and videos, right? C, ensure that the presentation is the appropriate length. No, right? The purpose of her wanting to improve the slides don't have anything to do with the length, right?
Mhm.
D, design the presentation slides appropriately. Absolutely, right? So slides appropriately is what I highlighted. So it would have been D. D is correct because the teacher's discussion helps students learn ways to design their slides to be more effective. Someone who might have been reading too fast might have been like, oh, okay, B, I need to appropriately like match what is being said. But no, that's not what it was. They need to design the presentation slides appropriately because there's actually too much text. So in these questions, you want to really, really make sure that you are pulling out those keywords and matching it with what is being stated in the question. Students in Ms. Rivera's English class expressed interest in the local professional football team, which has just won the national championship. The next day, Ms. Rivera presents various video clips from local and national news broadcasts about the game. She then has the students discuss the similarities and differences between what is said and how the information is presented by the broadcasters in the clips. Which of the following are students primarily practicing in the discussion? A, assessing how the media capitalizes on recent events. B, interpreting propaganda techniques used by diverse groups. C, evaluating the use of images by various media types, film, TV, newspaper. D, analyzing different viewpoints of the same event. So we got to look at what is in red here. So Ms. Rivera is presenting various video clips from local and national news. So what she's using is video clips. That is her media, right? So she's not using newspaper and then turning around and using video clips and using posters. There's only one type of media. It's the video clips, right? She then has the students discuss similarities and differences between what is said and how the information is presented by the broadcasters. So it's only one form of information, one type of media, which is the video clips. Which of the following are students primarily practicing in the discussion? A, assessing how the media capitalizes on recent events. B, interpreting propaganda techniques used by diverse groups. I also should highlight diverse groups because that's a deciding factor too. C, evaluating the use of images by various media types. D, analyzing different viewpoints of the same event. So what I'm going to ask you to do is tell me what are the two that you are going to immediately eliminate. They make no sense.
The first one, A, doesn't make any sense, right?
Makes no sense. Absolutely. So A would be out of there.
And C.
And C, right? Because we already made that point that there's no various media types. They use video clips. That's it. So we have B and D. Interpreting propaganda techniques used by diverse groups. Were any diverse groups mentioned? No. That's why I'm saying if we don't read it all the way through, we might be like, oh, okay, that is propaganda because they're saying one thing, but then it's presented differently. You overthink it, right? But if you take the time to really pick out those keywords that either make it correct or make it wrong, it's going to save you every time. So D, analyzing different viewpoints of the same event is going to be correct. So option D is correct because the students are analyzing how the same event can be described differently in local and national broadcasts. All right, so this is a two-part question. So what I'm going to give us is 1 minute to read this question, and then we're going to go to the answer choices. All right. As an extension activity, which of the following can students also evaluate about the websites based on their findings for question 2? So just leaning in on question 2. Question 2 is, does the website have advertisements? So when you go on the website and there might be an advertisement for Fashion Nova or pet food or, whatever you tend to purchase tends to pop up. How convenient. So does the website have advertisements? As an extension activity, which of the following can students also evaluate about the website based on their findings from question 2? A, thematic links. B, a targeted audience. C, historical context. Or D, figurative language. What are the two answer choices that we could automatically just say, you know what, that's wrong?
D, as in dog, is not.
Absolutely.
And C.
C is out of there, right? So here we are between, and this is real life on the test, right? You got two answer choices, we know wrong. Then we have one, we're not really familiar with the meaning. And then the other one, once again, we're still trying to piece together what it means. So if we're talking about advertisements, advertisements are there for a what type of audience? Their targeted audience. If you have advertisements on the website, you've already you know, either been on a website dealing with clothes or bought some pet food, and that's why the advertisement is there. It is specifically towards a targeted audience. So does the website have advertisements? This is towards a targeted audience. All right. A, C, and D are incorrect because looking at a website's advertisements would not be helpful in evaluating thematic links, historical context, or figurative language. Students would need to evaluate the information given on the website. All right, so this is going to be our last question. A fifth grade teacher would like her class to complete a book report using a variety of media tools. Each student had to create a book trailer using technology, including pictures, video, audio, and text. So the teacher used technology to A, compare and contrast electronic media, B, communicate a message through language, medium, and presentation, C, extend meaning, or D, demonstrate the importance of visuals. Read very closely and then drop your answer in the chat. All right. So it's going to be B, communicate a message through language, medium, and presentation, right? So each student had to create a book trailer, right? They have to use technology. They have to include pictures, video, audio, text, all these different ways to communicate meaning. So it's going to be B. So because technology is used to communicate a message, which is the
One word.
yes, through
One
language,
word.
medium, and presentation. Absolutely. All right, guys.
Okay.
So that's going to conclude our session for today. Once again, if you would like to go back through Competency 7, we went through the questions. I'm going to upload, I think I already did, but I'm going to double check. Upload Competency 7. This will also be uploaded where we did a review of Competency 7 and then Competency 8. The next time that we meet, we will still go over questions for Competency 8. And then that's going to be on Friday. So Thursday, because of everything with the hurricane, is supposed to hit like either Wednesday evening going into Thursday. People are going to be worried about whatever happens because of it. We're just going to push it back to Friday, and it'll be at the same time. All right. So y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.